One of the best ways to protect and preserve the environment is through local solutions that help communities live sustainably. We'll be checking out some of those ideas on this new edition of Eco Africa. I'm Chris Alems, coming to you from Lagos, Nigeria. Good to have you with us today.
That is so true, Chris. Initiatives that start from the ground up can often set an example and influence people across borders. I am Sandra Kahomza Twinovideo, right here in Kampala, Uganda. Here is what we have coming up. The cotton farmers in Cameroon using virtual reality to help boost their yields. A young entrepreneur in Ethiopia with a stylish solution to plastic pollution. And how small-scale farmers can afford to replace dirty diesel with clean solar energy. Let us begin right here in Uganda, where many communities are challenged by the amount of plastic waste that is littering the streets, clogging sewers and harming the environment. Organized waste management could help a lot. Until then, it is up to people like in our first report to find creative and rewarding ways of dealing with this plastic plague.
Life in a refugee camp in Uganda is anything but easy. But Doris Kavira has now found a way to earn money collecting plastic bottles. The camp is littered with them, including the small patch of land where she grows her vegetables. She sells the plastic waste to a recycling company.
I can make about 24 euros a month. The buyer weighs the plastic bags. If it gets heavy, I get 24 euros. But it has to be heavy.
Doris Kavira fled Woto, North Kivu province in Democratic Republic of Congo about 8 years ago. She's one of the about 1.7 million refugees living in Uganda. Most come from neighboring South Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Burundi, countries that have suffered under conflict and civil war. As a result, Uganda is home to the largest refugee population in Africa. Meeting their daily needs is a huge challenge. Now, Doris Kavira is starting over in the Chiangwari refugee settlement in western Uganda. There is a waste collection point close to her from her garden. The payment arrives as points on her mobile account. She can use them to make purchases in shops or get a cash disbursement. If people bring more plastics, it helps our environment. The plastic choke the environment, and the plastic destroys the soil fertility. The soil loses its fertility. If we continue to collect plastic, the soil will regain its fertility. Turning plastic recycling into a business, that was the idea of entrepreneur Frank Kimugisha. He and his team also developed the app, which went online a year ago in 2 locations in the city of Jinja in eastern Uganda and here in the refugee camp in west of the country. And for Eco Plastyle, this is just the beginning.
We think it's possible to have at least more than 1 million refugees engage in recycling as a business, earning a small dollar a day from plastic recycling while cleaning the environment. If we can do that, then we are sure that we are hitting the triple bottom line, which is the people, planet, and prosperity.
The waste plastic is then brought from the camp to the company's factory near Kampala. This is where the plastic is shredded and melted and then turned into roofing tiles. The tiles are lightweight and cheaper to produce than conventional clay tiles, and they can be dyed in various colors to replicate the appearance of natural clay or concrete. They've already been used on several roofs in Kampala.
We make them 100% from plastic waste. They are brick red. They look like the normal clay tiles, by the way, but they are 2 times lightweight with 0 breakages and reduce the cost of construction.
Last year, the company recycled more than 500,000 kilos worth of plastic bottles. That's a lot for a small company, but it barely makes a dent in the roughly 220,000 tons of plastic waste that's produced every year in the country. So far, the Ugandan government hasn't come up with a plan to reduce plastic use, and there is no national recycling system, to the dismay of environmental experts.
In the Ugandan setting, I think it is around less than 3% of the plastics are being recycled, and the rest is being thrown into the environment.
As a result, plastic waste is a problem across the country. It's mainly local organizations that are trying to stem the tide. In the Chiangwari refugee camp, the NGO Care International brought Ecoplastyle on board to help with the plastic recycling. Word is getting round in the camp, and now more than 1,000 refugees are taking part in the Trash for Cash program. The NGO has also noticed that the program is making a difference.
We have at least witnessed up to 13 tons of plastic collected over the period of the last 3 months. That is a lot in terms of the volume. Not only plastic being collected in terms of removing it from the environment, but we are looking out on the return that we have invested for the collectors, for the aggregators, for the plastic recyclers, for those who are picking plastic as a source of income.
With the app as an incentive, more plastic waste is now being collected for recycling.
If you don't have
Whenever Frank Kimugisha pays a visit to Chiangwari, he is asked to show how the app works. For many refugees here, the ability to earn a small income makes a huge difference.
And because it has
In this camp, most of us are single mothers. We're no longer with our husbands. They abandoned us with the children. But this business has helped us because we have something to do every morning.
Frank Kimugisha and Doris Kavira have both embarked on a new path, and it's paying off. The entrepreneur is now getting in touch with other organizations so that he can launch his program in more refugee camps.
Collecting waste plastic is one thing, preventing it is another. We are off to Ethiopia next to meet an entrepreneur who set out to reduce the country's addiction to plastic shopping bags.
That's right, Sandra. And her company is not just tackling pollution in a stylish way, it's empowering women and creating jobs in the country's capital.
Eco-friendly and fair bags for men, women, for work or for going out, and produced locally in Ethiopia? Impossible. Well, not for Kitis Tesfaye. Kitis founded Tuba Ethiopia in 2019. In this suburb of Addis Ababa, Kitis created 31 jobs for women like us all. The women are weavers and work from home. Kitis comes regularly to collect the fabric they make.
After this, we use these fabrics for different designs of bags. So we combine it with leather.
Kitis had the idea to start a business 5 years ago. At that time, she was a student, and she was living in this area, which is known for this big dump site. In 2017, a landslide on the site caused the death of at least 130 people. After this event, Kitis wanted to do something for the neighborhood.
One of the reasons why that happened was the existence of plastic bags in the garbage. That triggered the concept of Tuba Ethiopia. We thought at that time, if we produce environmentally friendly shopping bags, like paper bags, fabric bags, we can replace plastic bags.
But she soon realized that the initial capital needed to produce paper or fabric for shopping bags was too high for her. So she looked for another way to create jobs here.
I know the women who live around here, and also that incident happened in this area. So I wanted to create a job opportunity for the women who live around here.
Tinanye was one of the first employees of Kitis.
I'm trying to see if she did the fabric as I want it or as I trained her, so it's okay.
Tinanye looks after 3 children. This work allows her to provide for a large part of the family's needs.
With the money she's giving me, I pay the rent for my house. I also have an extra job doing shuruba hairstyles. With the money from that, I pay the rest, food, etc.
Ciao, Tanani.
With the fabric made by the women, Kiedis returns to her office in the city center of Addis Ababa. The bags are then made in this small room. Kiedis sells 60 to 75 bags every month. To cope with the crisis and to reuse the leather scraps, she started to sell smaller and cheaper objects like wallets or bracelets. She also often works at night to sell her products in a concert hall. For the future, she dreams of selling more and more bags to create more jobs for women. And in the longer term, she hopes to relaunch her idea of ecological shopping bags.
Building up a small business can be a real challenge, especially when you're trying to be as sustainable as possible. Green solutions are often still out of financial reach for many, but it doesn't have to be that way. Let's go to Senegal now, where an innovative African-led project is helping small-scale farmers make the leap to clean energy.
It's a desperate scene. The water tank is bone dry, the groundwater pump is broken, and the diesel canisters are empty. All abandoned by a Senegalese farmer overwhelmed by the effects of climate change and rising fuel costs. It's a growing problem here. There are farmers who use 1,200 liters of diesel to irrigate a single hectare of agricultural land. We are in the Niayes region in northwestern Senegal, a region stretching 180 kilometers between the capital Dakar and the city of Saint-Louis. It is the country's vegetable growing hub. But it's raining less and less here, and groundwater levels are dropping. Yankoba Ndiaye is currently cultivating potatoes and onions on his 3-hectare plot, but he's also managed to cultivate aubergines and other vegetables on this land too. Until recently, this antiquated diesel generator was the smallholder's only means of pumping groundwater onto his fields. Now he has 9 solar panels too. This clean energy is helping him to save money and keep his business afloat. Before getting the solar plant, I was facing enormous difficulties because my diesel pump guzzled more than 60 liters of diesel and often broke down. But with this installation of the solar panels, my consumption has dropped by 20 liters. I can't irrigate my entire farm using solar energy, but I can switch off the diesel generator at noon and just use the solar power for the rest of the day. Yankoba Ndiaye bought the solar panels with the help of a small loan equivalent to 6,000 euros. Thanks to support from a state bank, he only has to repay half of the loan. The loan was brokered by an association in Thiès, in the south of the region, that represents more than 20,000 vegetable farmers. Mamadou Ndiaye has managed to secure microcredits for solar panels for about 300 of his members via a Senegalese financial institution. The long-term goal is to decarbonize farming in the region and save livelihoods in the face of the climate crisis. It's a problem if we don't modernize our ways of working and take into account dwindling water resources. That's why we have to introduce solar pumps, so that farmers save money, conserve water supplies, and save jobs. Spilled diesel contaminates the soil and can get into the groundwater. Like other farmers, Yankoba Ndiaye is enthusiastic about the benefits of switching to clean energy. We have had courses about the harmful effects of using diesel. It's not just the smoke. The fuel can also pollute the ground and the harvest. But the farmers who still use diesel don't have any other choice. Personally, I wouldn't use any more diesel on my fields either if I had 5 solar kits. But the smallholder can't afford to do that. That's unfair, according to agronomist Mamadou Sow from the Senegalese NGO Enda Third World. Sow says the microfinance system favors big farmers. Interest rates are often a problem. They're often too high, and that means that the producers frequently don't have the flexibility to commit to such an investment. What we are seeing is that people with more capital than the smallholders are the ones profiting from this kind of investment. More affordable solar facilities like Yankoba Ndiaye's could help the region's farmers survive. The Niayes region is also crucial for food security. This fertile coastal strip produces more than 60% of Senegal's vegetables.
Rapid climate change caused by human behavior having effects all over the world. Our next report takes us to a place that's having to deal with too much water rather than too little.
Venice in Italy is facing rising sea levels, while at the same time, its foundations are sinking. The world's famous city has already installed high-tech floodgates, but they are wondering, is it enough?
Venice has fascinated the world for over 1,600 years. And for just as long, people have been scared of floods or worried that the city could sink into the sea. This is the latest attempt to protect Venice. 78 metal barriers that can be raised to separate the sea from the lagoon. The system is called MOSE.
If we hadn't had MOSE, Venice would have been irreparably destroyed on November 22nd, 2022. It was the second highest flood in history, but nothing happened. We were able to protect the lagoon and Venice.
Elisabetta Spitz has already given the order to raise the barriers over 50 times. And she's having to do it increasingly frequently.
We now know that MOSE is a flexible instrument that does not always have to be opened, nor at the same time. Today we know much more about floods and winds, so we're in a position to act against flooding, to use the MOSE system only partially, and to guarantee the exchange of water between the sea and the lagoon.
Does that mean Venice can be saved? Climate experts predict that the sea level could rise by 60 centimeters by the end of the century. The oceanographer Georg Umgiese says that MOSE is just buying time.
Is MOSE enough to save Venice? Yes, at the moment. Definitely in the next 10, 20 or 30 years. But if the sea level rises by 50 centimeters, it will have to be used 300 to 400 times. That's once a day. It won't manage. MOSE won't be able to cope as a structure, but nor will the lagoon manage, because it needs the exchange of water.
Marco Sigovini from the Venice Institute of Marine Sciences is researching the lagoon's ecosystem. He says the frequency with which MOSE is being used has not yet had any major consequences, but this could change if the lagoon is separated from the sea more frequently and for longer periods of time.
It could be that at some point we'll have to decide whether it makes sense to maintain the lagoon as a saltwater lagoon or not. The long closures interrupt the cycle between the sea and the lagoon, which is fundamental for Venice. It's what creates the lagoon floor, which determines what plants and animals can live there. We're going to face tough decisions.
Whether to save the lagoon or the city. Venetians would ideally keep both. Piazza San Marco is the lowest point of Venice and the first to flood. Work is currently underway to raise the square.
If it were raised to 110 centimeters, then the square would no longer be underwater, because it would manage up to 110 centimeter without flooding. And at over 110 centimeter, the MOSE system would close. So in other words, there would be no more flooding on Piazza San Marco.
He says that Venice as we know it cannot last forever in any case. At some point, the lagoon will have to be separated from the sea. and that Venetians will be forced to decide.
Both cannot be rescued. We have to decide what to save. Venice. There is only one Venice.
A difficult decision. One Venetians hope they will never have to make.
Being prepared to deal with whatever problems may lie ahead can really help. Cotton growers around the globe are trying to understand how to adapt to the effects of climate change. As you are about to see, some farmers in Cameroon are getting some innovative and striking help.
It's not your average teaching aid. Virtual reality technology takes a bit of getting used to. But with the help of these headsets, Cameroonian cotton farmers are learning how to adopt more sustainable practices, boosting their harvests and their incomes.
This type of training plunges farmers into a world where they can practice their methods, and practicing helps them understand the challenges better and adapt accordingly.
Halawaji Halahoki learned how to farm cotton from his parents, but now he's willing to try out new approaches and gain new skills. The high-tech headset transports him to a cotton field for an immersive learning experience. He can see the crops close up from his desk, along with any infestations and dangerous pests. The training also shows him that some creatures are beneficial, such as spiders that feed on the caterpillars that can destroy his cotton crop.
It's like we're right there in the video. We can see exactly what's happening. It's been a great help to us. It's been a great help to me.
Marawa, in northern Cameroon, is the centre of the country's cotton industry. It's the main cash crop grown in the region, and 1/3 of arable land here is used for cotton production. Many families depend on it for their livelihoods. Including Halawaji Halahoki's. While his 4 children are at school, his wife and 2 of his neighbours are going to help him with the harvest. Halahoki is planning to put what he learned on the course about pest control and sustainability into practice next year, when it's time to sow seeds again.
I won't use toxic chemicals because they cause a lot of problems. These products kill all insects, but in fact some are useful. They can kill our animals, and they're bad for the air that we breathe. I won't use toxic fertilizers either. I'll use organic fertilizer instead.
The farmer learned how to make organic pesticide spray on the virtual reality course by mixing neem seed powder with water, olive oil, and a little washing up liquid. It's not only better for the environment than chemical pesticides, it's also a lot cheaper. The VR training sessions are organised by the International Cotton Advisory Committee and financed by the German development agency, the GIZ. Immersive learning in a virtual environment that replicates real-world situations is also cost-efficient. It reduces the sort of expenses associated with standard training methods, such as travel and fuel. Northern Cameroon only sees 1/3 of the rainfall of the rest of the country, and climate change is exacerbating the irregular rains and drought.
When it doesn't rain, nothing grows. That's a problem. Even if the crops start to grow, without rain, they won't blossom properly. That's another one of our challenges.
The farmers learn how to best harvest the cotton to preserve its quality and avoid dust contamination. Halahoki has also started using cloth sacks rather than plastic, not least because that means less waste. 250 farmers have already taken part in the virtual reality course, and 90 instructors have been trained up to pass on the new skills. As climate change confronts farmers with new challenges, Halawaji Halahoki and his family are keen to keep up with the times.
Whether it is high-tech or low-tech or a mix of the two, the best solutions work best when they empower the people they are supposed to help. I am Sandra Kahumza Twinovideo, signing off from Kampala, right here in Uganda.
Thank you, Sandra. And I am Chris Alemsi in Lagos, Nigeria. Thanks for joining us. And do check out Echo Africa Online for more great stories and ideas. See you again next week.